Hello, you're listening to Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today, a weekly podcast designed to bring you snippets of encouragement to help you as you go about your day. I'm Jenny Guy, your host. This coming Sunday, May 20th, 2018, is Pentecost, the day when the Holy Spirit, the third member of the Godhead, was sent to us by God the Father in response to God the Son's prayer. Who is the Holy Spirit? What does He do? In this episode, we'll close out the series titled Getting to Know You by focusing on the Holy Spirit and learning the answers to these questions. Let's get started. A few weeks ago, I began a 3-part series titled Getting to Know You, in which we look at the 3 members of the Godhead. The first episode focused on God the Father. The second episode paid attention to God the Son, Jesus Christ. Today, in the last episode of the series, we're considering probably the least known and possibly most misunderstood member of the Godhead, God the Holy Spirit. I want to share some facts about the Holy Spirit. I hope that by the time I finish, you will appreciate the Holy Spirit and His role in our lives. First, the Holy Spirit is a being, just as much as God the Father and God the Son are. Because Spirit is part of His name, many refer to Him as it, but that is incorrect. The Holy Spirit is God. He has characteristics and personality and is an active partner in our relationship with God the Father and God the Son. For example, did you know that we can make the Holy Spirit sad? We can grieve Him by our wrong thoughts and actions. We find that interesting fact in the 30th verse of the 4th chapter of Ephesians. In his letter to the church at Ephesus, Paul writes, "And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you were sealed for the day of redemption." Or consider this: we can stop the Holy Spirit's work in our lives. In 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter and 19th verse, Paul gives this short and to-the-point instruction: do not quench the Spirit. There's a fascinating story in the book of Acts, the 5th chapter, verses 1 through 11, which illustrates the consequences of taking the Holy Spirit lightly or treating Him carelessly. I won't read the story. Instead, I'll briefly summarize it by saying that a husband and wife tried to defraud the early church in a monetary transaction. The Apostle Peter, who was the church's leader at that time, revealed the couple's scheme by telling them that they had lied to the Holy Spirit. You'll have to read the story to find out what happened to them. I'll give you a hint. It wasn't good. I think these examples show that we would be wise to give the Holy Spirit the respect He deserves as a member of the triune Godhead. Second, the Holy Spirit was known by many names and was active in various forms throughout the Old Testament. In the New Testament, He makes His first appearance at Jesus' baptism. Here's Luke's record of that event. When all the people were being baptized, Jesus was baptized too. And as he was praying, heaven was opened, and the Holy Spirit descended on him in bodily form like a dove. And a voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." I think it's interesting that in this instance, all three members of the Godhead were present, but in very distinct forms. There was God the Father in the form of the voice from heaven, God the Son, Jesus, who was being baptized, and God the Holy Spirit, the dove who came to rest on Jesus. When Jesus was preparing to leave his disciples and return to heaven, he told them that he would send someone in his place to help them. The someone he was referring to was the Holy Spirit. I like the amplified version of the Bible's description of the Holy Spirit. Here is John, the 14th chapter and the 16th verse. "And I will ask the Father, and he will give you another Comforter, Counselor, Helper, Intercessor, Advocate, Strengthener, and Standby, that he may remain with you forever." Wow! Look at the many ways the Holy Spirit can and will help us if we but ask him to do so. Third, the Holy Spirit helps us work out our salvation, as Paul instructed us to do. The Holy Spirit does this by growing fruit in our lives, giving us a heavenly prayer language known as tongues, and by giving us gifts. The fruit is designed to help us develop godly character. The prayer language helps us to pray God's will for ourselves and others. And the gifts are to aid us as we serve others, as well as help us grow and mature as believers. Paul names the fruit for us in Galatians, the 5th chapter, verses 22 and 23. By contrast, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no law against such things. In a couple of books in the New Testament, Paul teaches about the prayer language, or tongues, and its purpose. He writes, "Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought. But that very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words. And God, who searches the heart, knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God." That was Romans, the 8th chapter, verses 26 and 27. Paul's second teaching about the prayer language is found in 1 Corinthians, 14th chapter, verses 2, 14, and 15. "For anyone who speaks in a tongue does not speak to people, but to God. Indeed, no one understands them. They utter mysteries by the Spirit. For if I pray in a tongue, my spirit prays, but my mind is unfruitful. So what shall I do? I will pray with my spirit, but I will also pray with my understanding. I will sing with my spirit, but I will also sing with my understanding. Finally, Paul talks about the gifts that the Holy Spirit gives us to help us fulfill Jesus' command to be his witnesses and make disciples. The gifts are given to us for our private use as well as with others. The gifts are the word of wisdom, word of knowledge, faith, gifts of healing, working of miracles, prophecy, discernment of spirits, tongues, and interpretation of tongues. I know I've given you a lot to think about concerning the Holy Spirit. My goal was to present a brief but hopefully comprehensive picture of the Holy Spirit and how he continues Jesus' work on earth and in us. Many books have been written about the Holy Spirit. Many books have been written about his gifts, defining them and explaining how they function. Likewise, many books have been written about tongues and their purpose. I encourage you to explore some of these works and develop a deeper understanding of and relationship with the Holy Spirit. You won't regret it. I hope you heard something today that has encouraged you and possibly given you something new to think about that will motivate or inspire you. If you would like a PDF copy of the show notes for this episode of Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today, visit my website at jguypublisher.com. New episodes are published each week on Wednesday. I hope you'll join me for another installment of Everyday Encouragement, Timeless Truths for Today. Well, that's it for now. Until next time, be encouraged.